See. Okay. Right, cool. We'll go from there. So, welcome everyone to the third and final part of the Black Love Project's Valentine's Week food special. So as you can see, we are not on IG Live due to technical difficulties, but we still wanted to have this good conversation and share it with you all. So it's just coming to you in a different form. So a quick introduction, I'm Tamara Heron. I'm a freelance creative and also the social media coordinator for the Black Love Project and Words of Colour as a whole. And we have Julius Monero with us today. So Julius, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me tomorrow. So I'm Julius Monero. I'm the current custodian of the Rainbow Bakery. So owner and director, passed on as a family business. I'm also a mentor and business consultant. Something that I've started doing. I'm a parent as well, father of three, married, father of three.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining me today. I guess our discussion is all about family, community, nostalgia, all linked to food and that feeling of love and fulfillment with food. And I remember the last time that we spoke, you had said something like the feeling of love is like the best food you've ever created. And I was thinking you better coin that phrase real quick, but you better write that down.
Yeah, I already forgot it. I already forgotten it. Yeah, I think to myself is, did I say that? Wow, couldn't say it better than that myself. Better trademark it.
Yeah, no, for real, you better. And I've been thinking about it since you said it actually, and it is true though, because it's kind of like that. It's sentimental, isn't it? That feeling of fulfillment. You put effort into something, and you get the love back that you've given to it, and it's really beautiful. And I feel like that kind of frames what this project is about, and perhaps how our conversation will go. But yeah, guys, that is Julius Monero who said that. Do not try and claim it for yourself.
Oh, witnesses.
But yeah, I was kind of interested as well because as you mentioned, you've taken over a family business, so it was your parents' business, wasn't it?
That's correct. Yeah, as a family, as in my mum and dad started it. They brought in and they incorporated the rest of like my aunties, the rest of the family. So then yeah, that's how it became family business. But then they came out, and then it became just us again.
Yeah. So I do wonder, because it's such a personal thing when you're taking over a family business as well, it's quite an emotional thing also. Like what have been the challenges? Because you took over the business quite young, I believe. Were you in your 20s?
Yes. Yeah, I think I was 23 when I took over, pretty young. But yeah, that element of it being a family business and it being a legacy, it wasn't even apparent until I'd been running it for a few years how much of a legacy it was. But just being that it was something that my mum and my dad started, and they put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, there was I already was attached to it. It wasn't something like a commodity. I thought, you know what, I'll have a go, and that's it. I thought I could, but I couldn't. But it was one of those things where that helped me in those early times to go through the hard things that maybe are not so desirable. Great to go in there, count money, pay staff, run off home, but to actually go in there, 4 o'clock in the morning to go and bake.
Yeah,
it does help. When you've got a bit more passion about it, when you're passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what drives you, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was also thinking about how over time food kind of becomes a source of memory. So for example, I was speaking to my mum about this earlier actually, how when I smell fried dumplings, it reminds me of my grandmother on my dad's side, because she's always cooking, especially for my brother, always cooking fried dumplings for my brother. And my other grandmother, my late grandmother, she would make the most amazing apple pies, and I've never found anyone who's matched the apple pie. She has an apple tree in her, she had an apple tree in her garden, and it's like these smells that take you back, the tastes that take you back, even if the taste isn't exactly as the same as what someone made, but you kind of imagine you're eating their dish. And the smell of patties remind me of being younger at church, and after church they would have like KAs and patties, and it was a long service, so I was very hungry. And then you're kind of like running through when you're little past all the tall adults to go and get your little beef or whatever, your beef patty. There's all these different foods, and the way that food really does capture and surround our memories. And those are some of mine. Some of them are recurring, some of them are individual. But what type of foods transport you back as well to these particular moments in time and
Well,
memories?
it's funny. It's something pretty similar. Mine's pretty similar. It's those home cooked authentic meals that we had. I mean, my dad is Lucian, and my mum was from Uganda, but we had a lot of Caribbean food at home. So it's those dishes are the ones. I wouldn't just be something silly like McDonald's I had, when I was 16. What did it make me remember?
Yeah,
That means nothing. But when I think about, for example, like I heard you say about dumplings, my dad used to make. We call them bakes.
yeah,
Nothing you have bakes, floats. He used to make them every Sunday morning. So he would make bakes Sunday morning. He'll make cocoa tea every Sunday morning. So whenever I have that now, it does remind me of those times. Fun enough, I don't really associate food or think with any bad times. I think it's because food, like you said earlier on, the enjoyment of food, that kind of feeling, that emotion is a positive emotion. So you link it with positive things. So when I have like cocoa tea, or I have a fried bacon, or anything that kind of remotely tastes or smells like that, it reminds you of that time on Sunday mornings that I had with my dad, because
mm,
he was a busy guy at that time. He was working virtually 7 days a week in the business, and so he wouldn't have much time. But we used to live above the business. An old bakery we had, we used to live above it. So what we'd find on a Sunday was that was his time where if you woke up early enough, you'd have him sitting there relaxing. So I would wake up quite early, sit there with him, have my cocoa tea, have my bakes, you
yeah,
know. So yeah, that's one of the taste, and I think that's what I was getting at when I said that before. My
mm,
experience in the bakery has been someone can come in and ask for something, and they almost can taste it before they've got it. So if you turn around and say it's sold out, you just robbed them of
literally.
that emotion and that feeling. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I can understand that. It's so true. Because I guess it's part of the senses as well, isn't it? So you can already see the link.
that's
Honestly,
it.
close my eyes, and when I was thinking about the apple pie, and you shut off one of the senses to kind of embrace another one. I swear I could taste the apple pie. I've not tasted apple pie in like I've not tasted it in over 10 years. It's been a while since I've last eaten and my granddad tries to make them all the time, bless him. But
Mm,
my grandma was the
the
cook.
one.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's so true. But it's interesting though, because I guess when we think about memory, a lot of the time we do think about how other people have contributed to it. But then it
Mm.
dawns on me that actually we're in other people's memories too. We're also memory makers. And yeah, I was kind of curious to know also if there's a meal that your family like you to make. When there's a barbecue or there's a family gathering, they're always like, oh, you have to get
Mm.
Uncle Julius to make it, or it's like, Dad, I prefer his recipe. In my family, I know everyone loves my mum's coleslaw, her rice and peas. And so, is there like a dish that people go for that potentially is going to be like a pressure
Well,
for them?
I haven't, I'm not the biggest of cooks really, but there's a couple of dishes that I've developed, or I've tried just so I can feed my family. In actual fact, the dish that I learned how to do, I learned off of my wife. It was barbecue ribs.
Okay.
Um, and it was she learned it. I think she learned it off of was it a recipe on the internet. And then one fateful day, I asked her to make it. She was busy at the time. She goes, "Well, I'll just let you know. You can make them. This is the recipe." I had to go make them. Since then, I've been making it all the time. She's been making me make it all the time. When we have a family function, other people who tasted it said that's what you've got to bring. You got to bring the ribs. Um, that's what it'd be for family function. I know of my kids, if it was the home thing, and
Mm.
they thought, right, Dad, what are you going to make? There's no real speciality, I suppose. I think it's the ribs. I think I'm pretty proud of the ribs. I like when I cook my chicken at home, but the problem is like I say to my wife, is you probably won't get the same thing twice. It's very much like I know what needs to go in, and I'll throw it in, and I don't just do it because I think I'm so experienced about it. I think I was pretty lazy. All the only thing that I've always been warned about is be careful when you put salt in, measure salt,
Mm-hmm.
but everything else. So yeah, the kids, I think the kids like the chicken, but yeah, if I go to a family function, it's the ribs.
Play one of those ribs. I want to try these ribs now. I love a rib. I'm intrigued. But that's interesting,
Amazing.
actually. I feel like trying to think what my answer would be to that. I make bread quite a lot because it's easy. You always have the ingredients for bread.
It's it's an easy. Can't help it. We put some people out of business. What do you mean? Breaking bread,
Sorry, guys, it's not that easy. Go to a bakery, Hackney. But I mean,
no,
it's
that's good.
a simple loaf, and then I like it as well because the time it kind of takes to put into it, to like watch it rise and watch it transform. But honestly, it's gone within like 20 minutes. My parents rush to the oven, take it straight out, cutting it whilst it's hot, burning up their hands and everything. And my mum's always saying how it reminds her of like back in the day when her mum would make bread a lot. She had 7 children, so she was making a lot of food all the time. And
Mhm.
I kind of like the ability to provide someone with a food that takes them, that links them to another memory. And I'm sure being, the director of this bakery, you probably have customers who come into your store and it's like, oh, it really reminds me of this, or it takes me back, or it must
Mhm.
provide a lot of comfort to them. And I'm wondering, like, do you have insight into what your business means for your local community?
Funny, just before you said that, I thought to myself, wow, if I could get some testimonials from people just
Yeah.
saying how it makes them feel, that would be great. No, what I'd get is I'd get the general chit chat. I'm someone whereby a lot of people say I'm quite elusive and never see me in the bakery. When I am there upstairs and I talk to customers, I like to talk to customers. Actually, someone who has no problem dealing with complaints. We don't get much complaints, but I have no problem with it. So when I see customers, I talk to them, and that's when it kind of comes out sometimes. Like they'll say to me, how long have I been running it for? Then they'll tell me I've been coming to this bakery for this many years, and then they'll go into a story about what it meant.
Yeah.
What I saw the other day actually, which was saw firsthand, which kind of got me actually. I didn't realize that the bakery meant so much to people in the area. What happened was about 8 years ago, I refurbished the bakery
Okay.
and I shut the place. I said I'd be shut for I think about a week.
Mhm.
3 weeks later, I am not open. And it's quite clear from the outside that there's been a lot of, because I basically gutted the place.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
what happened was, I remember one Saturday morning, I had the shutters down, but then they kind of perforated. I was inside, so I could see out. And then I just saw someone come to knock on the shutter. And then the person saw that the place was shut, and the disappointment on their face was like it was a young guy. He was only like about 12 years old, and he
Mm.
was he looked so disappointed that we were shut. But I didn't realize it. I don't think it's just because he thought it was shut. I think he
Yeah.
kind of thought we'd gone forever.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I mean, it's if you consider yourself to be quite a humble person, you don't sit there thinking, yeah, I know I play that kind of role in the community. But sometimes you just don't realize. So for me, sometimes I think to myself, the bakery is bigger than you. It's
Mm.
not really about you. So not many people know that I own the bakery because that wasn't important. You see the logo, it's of my dad, it's Rainbow Bakery. That's what people have the memories with.
Mm.
It doesn't really make a difference who owns it now. In actual fact, back in the day, it made a difference because my dad is the character.
Right.
That,
Yeah.
that's what the business is about. That's like the brand. But yeah, to see that firsthand, the effect that you have on someone like that was a big deal. And
Yeah.
it's that thing you're saying about this. Do you have any insight?
Mm.
People normally tell me the story, but I saw that firsthand.
Mm. Yeah. That's a really beautiful moment as well. But poor boy, the bad
I
for
know,
him.
yeah, but it's all right. I mean, he just thought, we opened, I think, 2 weeks later, and he got his stuff.
And
He
he
got his
got
stuff.
back ready and hungry.
That's right, yeah.
Interesting as well. So I guess like what you were saying about how people, it's the like your dad, he's the bakery, like the image with the name of him, and it's the fact that this bakery, for other people, they might call it theirs. They'll be like, oh yeah, you got to come to my local. Do you know what I mean? And that ownership that people then place on their favorite spots, um
Mhm.
their favorite, especially their favorite
You
food
know, I
spots.
just didn't know. The thing is that you're saying that, and it's put it this way. I know when people get super successful and wealthy, they say they don't do it for the money, and there's other things that they do it for. But I could see that they could be being genuine because I
Mm.
never really knew that people really talked about the bakery that way. And it's one of the things right now. It makes it feel even better because you've had an impact.
Mhm.
My dad's job at the time was to create something like that that
Yeah.
made people want it. And from when you hear someone say that type of thing, you're thinking like, wow. And then the funny thing is they don't know who I am. But I'm thinking to myself is that I'm the one who's maintaining it at the moment. But it's just something to just feel quite happy inside about. Not something to boast about, happy inside.
Yeah.
Or when you hear someone saying, so someone, do you know, I ask them is, do you know the Rainbow Bakery? Oh yeah, I know the Rainbow Bakery. I know the Rainbow Bakery. I know all the people in there. These people are my family. And there's that person, and that's the owner, and that's the dad, and that's the mum. And then, 10 years ago, then this person was there. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm thinking, I can verify that whole story because you don't realize. You told me you've gone back far back about 15 years. I've been running for 20 years. All the stuff you're talking about it's not entirely correct, but no, it's that kind of thing is
That's funny.
it's funny. It's funny. It's good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that is funny actually. It's like you're some like undercover.
Mm-hmm.
That's really sweet though. I really like that. And I feel like food really does act as a catalyst within the Black community for people to connect with one another, their family, with the community at large. I feel like food and places to eat and the motion of cooking, it provides like that space for learning, for teaching, for catching up. And to be fair, even with the learning and the teaching, it isn't even necessarily just about food. I feel like when people are cooking, it could be teaching about life lessons. It could be saying, oh, I wanted to talk to you about this. So you have that time whilst you're creating something away from distractions, especially in the environment we're in now, but there's a lot of distractions. And it provides that space, like a moment of rest. And then also having establishments where you can go and just, people who just stood there for too long, catching up with friends, just holding their food that they haven't eaten yet. And I love the space that food provides, whether you are cooking it, whether you're buying it, or whether you're eating it. It really does just, that dinner time with the family, is that something that you guys use as a precious time personally as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was something whereby, growing up, I thought to myself, I want to make sure I come from a family household, quite, sisters, dad, mum. So we had dinner together, and I always wanted that family kind of unit when I moved out. So dinner time is a time where we try to sit together and sit together and eat together, and having a home cooked meal is something that it's just a standard that I was brought up on. Whether doesn't necessarily mean the food is better that I make than what I can go and buy outside, but it's just I'm just used to having a wholesome meal. So I try to me and my wife, it's a principle that we both follow. So yeah, it's one of those things that food is a big deal, beyond obviously sustenance, because it is something that brings us together. I was also going to ask you, do you think that your bread is better when you're in a happy mood, or do you think you because the idea about food and love, do you like cooking?
Yeah, I do.
So you're happy when you're making that bread. That's not a chore. That's like I like to bake bread.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any difference? I'm not. Is there do you think there is you can compare and you can say, well, that food was not made out of love?
I actually, and it's so interesting that you said that, because as soon as you asked that question, I noticed that one time where there was one time I was in a really good mood. I was relaxed, probably listening to music and stuff, and just, when I make bread is what I do think, especially about my grandmother. So I was just thinking about her and talking to my mum, especially when we're cooking. That's when she'll share like, childhood stories, and we'll laugh over things. And there was so much love in that moment, right? And the bread, it was so good. It was so good. And there was another time where I was making it more just because I had to make it, or I said I would make it, but I was in a bit of a rush. I didn't have time. And I really feel like, because it's so in your hands, like you're needing it, you're putting that effort into it, and it just tasted different. And that was the first thing that came to my mind. It wasn't like, oh, I needed more salt, because there's sometimes it's like, I should put more salt in, or I should have done this. But it was like, I felt like I genuinely said, I just don't feel like I had enough like love and joy went into me making it, and it tasted different. And that was the only ingredient that I can think of that was missing, because otherwise it was the same. So
Well, I mean, I think to myself, there is a difference. There is maybe significant as well. Now, when you say about when you're making, you're needing it, I think is if you like what you're doing, you're going to try and do it better. For me, in the bakery, like I said, I think I told you before, the dirty secret is I don't actually like making bread. I'm not actually a baker by trade. It's something I know how to do because I have seen my dad do it many times and worked with him. But if I am going to make bread, the way I feel about it is I might as well make it properly. So I get frustrated if things go make it if I don't really want to be making it at the time. Now, I think the sad thing is with something like food is that if you really are loving something, I suppose you can make it better. But if you keep on doing that thing that you're supposed to love repetitively, you can fall out of love with it. You're still trying to find a way to make it taste the same. But I think the rational side is that I just have to make sure if I'm going to make a bread, it has to be a good bread. If I don't like it myself, then I don't really want to sell it. I'm not really happy about it. I'm not the kind of person, if someone says to me, is that bread fresh? And then say to them, yeah, it is when it's not. Simple thing is that when they eat that bread, they think that's what your fresh bread tastes like.
Yeah.
That's like offensive. You put so much love into making the bread, it should taste right. So you don't want someone to go and have the wrong idea about it. So yeah, I think it does make a difference. For me anyway, I do feel it, that feeling of I see what I've made and I like the look of it. That is a kind of a warmth, that is a love that I've got towards it. If I don't have that, I don't think my bread will come out as well.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as good. So
that's interesting. So then with making something, like you were saying about the repetition, you can fall out of love with it because you are making some things like repeating what you're creating. How are you keeping that love, that flavor of love into it every time? How do you maintain?
Sometimes it's the environment. Sometimes you do a lot of it without thinking about it. You can give a very high standard, high quality without thinking about it. I remember watching my wife when she was she used to work at a bank and she used to count money. She counts without even looking at it.
Yeah.
So I think I can do that with the bread, but I think in order there still has to be an element of the individual who is still enjoying themselves. I don't think you can be really unhappy and make good stuff. So what will happen is it could be the environment, the people I work with, also the reaction of the people who have the stuff. I do like to kind of keep my ear close to the ground and hear the reaction from customers. And then I'll be brave. I'll even ask them. So that is what keeps that kind of enthusiasm and that love. But even when the actual task gets monotonous, is when you now, a bit like yourself, when you say you taste or you smell certain things, you think about is your granny, was it?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Something similar is when you remember, that time when you really knew you did the right thing, how much of a reaction it had for the customers. That's what can keep you going.
Yeah, that's true. The outcome of it all. Yeah, it is so nice, isn't it, when you give something to someone and like you see that smile on their face, or they close their eyes and like, yeah, this is good. And the silence as well is one of my favorite things when we have loads of people over for dinner and everyone is loud. But as soon as the food comes, it's like this silence just suddenly washes over the table for about 5 minutes and then it's back, it's loud again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is people's reactions that also.
There is another interesting side that you haven't addressed about it.
Okay.
Is much like love, your heart could easily be broken. Because when you put that passion into something, and you think this is really good and people like it, you grow on that. It's like food to you, and then you get one person that just says, "Nah, I thought it was a bit salty or a bit too sweet." You're like, you're brokenhearted.
Yeah, literally.
And seriously, I mean, they don't get brokenhearted, but I don't get brokenhearted in the bakery. But I do have to remember sometimes is that if this is a business, so you're not going to satisfy all. You're not trying to satisfy all the people. You're not going to satisfy all the people all the time. You've got to basically get the majority of people. That's what you're trying to do. So there'll be some people that are not going to like what you're doing. But that still, nevertheless, if you even though you know that, it still gets you a little bit. If someone says something about your product that you're thinking it shouldn't be that way because I was slaving over this or what have you. Yeah. You're very easy. You think about it, if you just make dinner for someone and they're like, yeah, I don't really like that part, you get upset,
I'd be so
upset. I'm saying my kids, and they're only 9, 7, and 2. Like I'm saying, they don't eat the food. I can problem them too. But yeah.
But that's a good point actually, and that's the thing. I guess not everyone is gonna like your food, and accepting that is, you can say it and be like, yeah, it's just sad, and not everyone's gonna like it. But when you actually hear it in the moment, yeah, that's true. It can break your heart because you put so much effort into it, so much time buying those ingredients. You're looking for a particular, you've gone from shop to shop just to look for one particular thing, for example. There's all these different efforts beyond
Uh-huh.
the process of cooking that go into it, even like maybe if you're plating it up, if you're serving people over dinner or something. But and it's just made me think about how the moments in between eating and the love that's found within those as well. For example, like at Christmas time, I feel like that's quite a big sharing food season, let's say. So then we would do, you give someone a Guinness punch, they give you a sorrel. I give someone sweet potato pie, they give you pie in return. And it's those kind of doorstop exchanges as well, the swapping of food, which is really nice, especially throughout the pandemic. It was very hard to, well, we're still in it, but throughout the lockdown periods, it was very difficult to sit, like we missed out on that, on the sitting down with people. We just about maybe managed a few picnics and barbecues if we could, but the doorstop exchanges was like such a precious thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's all these little bits in between the actual eating, bumping into someone in the supermarket reaching for the same thing that you're reaching for, that you haven't seen in years. And yeah, the exchanges, I guess, of it all is really precious, I guess. But also with how do you think the past 2 years have affected the way people interact with food? Because obviously we haven't necessarily had the time to dine with people, but people might have had more time to cook and to research and experiment. I'm sure people are going to be doing up some big barbecues this summer. But yeah, have you noticed any relationships changing, like yours personally or people you know?
Um, well, I would say that I've got one client who's a chef himself, and whenever I supply him mini cocoa breads, and he actually asked me to send him dishes, something to eat, and I'm like, but you're a chef. But I think we both have the same situation. Sometimes because you've been cooking all day or you've been making that type of thing, you just kind of you you're not excited by that anymore. And I think is for some people in the whole pandemic, in the lockdown, if you were sitting there thinking, I was so used to being able to just have all these meals when I go out and what have you, I have to cook every day. Some people just don't like cooking.
Yeah.
So it's actually made them feel worse. But if it's what you like, then I think I think some people it's been like they've rediscovered or discovered, the whole activity, how satisfying it can be just to cook. I mean, I used to way before the pandemic. One of the things I was doing on the weekend on a Saturday because I wasn't going out that much because I was by that time. Saturday evening, have a drink, play some music, and then season meat. Season clean meat, that marinade meat. That's what I would do. And I think that's what maybe in this kind of thing is put more of a focus on that particular activity. People now getting maybe more adventurous about what they're going to eat right now because they've been able to experiment more. I found that locally, people have found, for example, the bakery, more people have been coming to the bakery because they just thought, you know what, let me just see what's on my high street. They didn't have much of a choice, couldn't go anywhere. So they just rediscovered their own high street. And that's where a lot of the independents are anyway. You're not going to get the independents in the city centre or, on Oxford Street. So people are now starting to discover that. So the habits are changing. People are more conscious of what they're eating, about what kind of things are in it. If you want to see that as, having, well, it's not whether you want to see it that way. I think is with the whole thing of the pandemic, people are valuing life differently, such that they may not now be so prepared to go and shovel toxins into their body anymore. So I am getting more people asking me questions about, the patties that you got, are they vegan, or what do you put any additives in your stuff? People are noticing that, So I think it's more. I think it's self-awareness. It's one of the things that's increased. I think.
Yeah.
People understand themselves better. What is it I want? What makes me happy? what makes you have that nice feeling. I think people are more aware of that now, and they kind of feel like, I deserve this. I think I should be getting this now.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it did offer a lot of like a self-reflection period, and people, yeah, genuinely just interested, like you're saying, in what they're putting in their bodies, where things are coming from. And often I've seen a lot of conversations as well around the kind of, especially foods that have quite, well, all food has a history to it, you know what I mean? The ingredients, why the dish was made. And did you learn any of your own history or anything through some of the dishes that you've made, or
Well, made
what your
what I just made.
like family presented you with?
No, I don't think there was anything in particular. I mean, it was just, there was no knowledge really about the whole situation until
Hmm.
I went to St. Lucia probably about, I feel like 4 years ago with the family, and then we got a bit of an education about, because we're in the hotel and they were letting us know about the dishes that I so much took for granted when I was younger. There's actually one dish, what do you call it? It's called green fig salad. On the national, I've got one of the national dishes, green fig salad, and I didn't realize it was something I'd had before. When I was in St. Lucia, it was a big deal. Green fig salad, green fig salad. When I ate it, I thought, I've had this before. Didn't realize it was in my childhood at family functions. One of
Yeah.
my cousins always made green fig salad.
Mm.
So I didn't understand what it meant. So it was explained about the whole thing about the green fig. It's not what you think. It's actually it's green banana and what have you. So I learned a little bit about it, but where I actually learned more, or people just have to learn more about it,
Mm.
is I've recently done some food consultancy work for the BBC
Okay.
for a children's program.
Mm.
It's called Jojo and Gran Gran.
Hmm.
I don't know if I told you about it before, but so what basically the BBC wanted me to do was to check some of because the actual cartoon is based on a little girl who is St. Lucian. So
Okay.
they
And she
do
lives with her
reference,
grandmother.
sorry?
The one where she lives with her grandmother and
That's right.
yeah,
She lives with my mum and dad, actually, funny enough,
yeah.
but her grandmother picks her up every day
Oh,
and has
that's
a,
it. I've seen
yeah,
it.
I don't know, yeah. So but yeah, they want me to they do food on the program. They have some programs, some of them episodes are based on a dish. So they hired me to check the authenticity of the products. So
Mm.
I've looked at the things that they put there, and I've done the research and looked to find out, because we want to be sure about, how authentic is it? Is it one of those things that just seem to be authentic because it's been there for years, but is not actually a national thing?
Mm.
It's like people turn around and say that jerk chicken is authentic English, isn't it? Really, it's
Mm.
only because it's been there for so long. It's not because it's actually part of the country. But yeah, so that I did learn a bit about that. But we don't have anything in our family of an old wife, not an old wives' tale, but an old tale about this
Mm.
particular recipe that you use.
I do feel like you have to go out and figure it out for yourself. Like the way I've learned about dishes is, yeah, I guess through your own research, because it's almost like just something you're presented with. Like you were saying, you're just at these family functions. You didn't
Yeah,
realize that you were eating all of these historical dishes or like national dishes and things that are big deals, because it just, I guess we could take it for granted, really. Like the things that we have often. Um, and actually what they mean. But that's really cool about the Jojo and Gran. Are you allowed to say what the dish was? The dish was,
yeah.
or?
They've done a few, because we did. They also asked me and my daughter to do an episode where we made. My daughter was she was doing a pretend home cafe, because
Okay.
like one of those cartoons where they have cartoon and they cut to what they call as a vox, where it's like a real life type of situation.
Yeah.
So what they said is this little girl Jojo, she was doing a cafe in a park. So what they wanted to do was a real life thing. So they basically got me and my daughter, my little one, I think she was how old she was 6 at the time, to in a house to go. First of all, we had to go and make up rock cakes.
Okay.
That's a national
Yeah.
a national food for St. Lucia. So we went to make rock cakes so
Mhm.
she could sell it in her pretend cafe.
That's so
So
cute.
I was filmed doing it. I
Oh,
was filmed actually. We were both filmed doing it, so that's quite enjoyable as well. But yeah,
wow. That's so,
making up a national dish.
do your kids bake? Do they like cooking or
Um,
cooking
they
or?
do a bit of everything, and I don't think there's so much focus on it. I
Yeah.
mean, I say that, but thinking now, how many times have they said "daddy"? Daddy, can we bake this weekend? I'm thinking I've been baking all week. I'm gonna bake this weekend. But yeah, they do. They get to bake. I think there's little cakes as well with their nanny and a nana as well. So yeah, they do like a bit. And yeah, they'll cook whenever given opportunity. If I say, look, come back. Actually, today it was yesterday. Yesterday, one of them wanted to help me cook. Yesterday, so we did a bit of cooking together. But yeah, they did a bit of everything.
Yes, they've got that positive like attitude towards food and stuff. That's really lovely. So then I guess one of my final points or questions I thought was, do you feel like I know you said you're not like a main cook kind of thing, and I remember you talking about your parents and how your dad was like an amazing cook and how you're not, on his level, but do
Yeah.
you feel like you still express yourself with food? I guess you kind of mentioned about how you put your music on and you're marinating, cleaning up the meat and stuff. Is that your moment of just you and relaxing?
Yeah, I think it is an activity whereby I do feel good, because I do feel good. I do enjoy cooking. It's not one of the things where I think, oh, I can't bother with that. But, I think it's when I'm in the zone, set the mood, that's it. You know what? If I could do that at work as well, I'd probably be, I'll have 10 times more bakeries than I've got at the moment. But yeah, that's what I did. That is the thing that takes me away. That does.
Yeah. It is nice, just like I think like what we were saying earlier about the lack of distractions and just being just you in that task. And as some people would say, a labor of love is what they call cooking, isn't it? Because you have to put effort into it. But like we were saying, if you put love into it, it's going to taste better as well. That's the secret ingredient that people aren't talking about. But yeah, I feel like, have you got any more thoughts to add before I wrap up for us? Love and food.
Other than to remind everybody, what was my quote? What was my quote? Did I say?
Yes. What was? Do you know? I'm gonna write this down. I actually think I put it in the caption somewhere. It was something like the feeling of love. The feeling of love is like the best food you've ever created.
Do you know what? If I said that to my wife right now, she'd be like, "You didn't say that. You found that. You found that on the internet."
I can vouch for you. I'll be your witness.
Yeah. Yes. That's it. Just you can just finish on that. That's what he said. And if one of those things, there's captions where you say the caption and you say, who said this? And I might be a bit offended that no one was probably saying my name, but I still.
Well, don't worry. It's going to say Julius Monero 2022. And it's going to be one of those, when they put captions and it's like a picture of the sky or something random with a really beautiful quote. That's going to be your quote right there.
Wow.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You're my muse. But thanks for having me today. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to any other opportunities in the future.
Yes, for sure. And for everyone watching later on, thank you for listening to our conversation. If you're in the local Dalston area, hit up the bakery. If you're not, plan a trip to go. And hopefully I'm gonna make a trip as well. So I'm gonna review.
Yeah, and they should follow us on Instagram. So people to follow us on Instagram on Rainbow Bakery Dalston.
Yes, indeed.
And anybody that's interested, maybe wants to ask any questions about business, like I said, I do mentoring and consulting. They can just message me direct or DM me on, is that what they say? DM me on Instagram.
Okay, perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for watching. Have a wonderful weekend with your family, Julius.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.